The wind came down from the hills like it had a grudge, scraping across the plains and rattling the boards of the old ranch house. Christmas Eve had never been gentle out here, but this night carried a sharper bite. Caleb Rourke woke before dawn, not from the cold but from a sound that didn't belong, a soft shifting under the porch, like someone turning over in their sleep. His hand went to the rifle by habit, years of cattle drives and bad men teaching him caution, yet something in that sound held no threat, only weariness. He pulled on his coat and stepped toward the door, frost whitening the edges of the wood. Like a warning when he opened the door, the cold rushed in hard, the sky still dark and heavy with stars. Caleb knelt and leaned down, peering beneath the porch boards. There she was, curled tight against the stone foundation, a woman wrapped in rags and thin blankets that had long ago lost their warmth. Her hair spilled dark across her face, her breath shallow but steady. She looked young, though hardship had a way of stealing years. He felt something twist in his chest. This land was cruel, but it wasn't meant to be cruel to those already broken. Not on Christmas Eve. Caleb remembered other winters, cattle lost in blizzards, men buried where they fell, and the one winter that took his wife. Sickness and cold working together like thieves in the night. Since then the ranch had been quiet, too quiet. He lived alone by choice, or so he told himself. Yet seeing that woman beneath his porch cracked something open. He stood there longer than he meant to, watching her shiver, the wind tugging at her thin cover. The decision came slow but sure. Like the sun climbing over the ridge, he went back inside and fetched a thick wool blanket, one his wife had sewn years ago. It still smelled faintly of cedar and soap. Caleb crouched again and gently draped it over the woman, careful not to wake her too roughly. But she stirred anyway, eyes snapping open wide with fear. She tried to scramble back, bumping her head against the beams. Caleb raised his hand slow, voice low and steady, telling her she was safe, that he wasn't going to run her off. Her eyes searched his face, measuring truth the way people did when lies had been their daily bread. She stopped struggling, though her body stayed tense, ready to bolt. Caleb noticed her hands were cracked and red, nails broken, signs of work and travel, not comfort. She whispered a thank you so soft it nearly vanished in the wind. Caleb told her the cold would kill her if she stayed there. Porch or no porch, he said it plain, not to scare her but because it was the truth. He offered her a place by the fire, just for the night, no strings. Christmas Eve was a poor night to turn someone away. The woman hesitated, pride warring with survival. He could see it clear as tracks in fresh snow. Finally she nodded, slow and careful. Caleb stepped back to give her space, watched as she gathered her few belongings. A small sack and nothing more. She moved stiffly, like someone used to sleeping on hard ground. When she stepped into the lamplight, he saw how thin she was, how tired, yet there was strength there too, a kind that refused to lay down and disappear inside. The warmth hit her like a wave. She swayed and caught herself on the table. Caleb guided her to a chair by the fire, poured her coffee and set out bread and beans, the simple meal looking finer than a feast in her eyes. She ate slowly at first, then with quiet hunger. He told her his name, Caleb Rourke, rancher, widower, not much else to say. She told him hers was Anna, just Anna, no last name offered. The fire popped and crackled. The house no longer felt empty outside. The sky began to pale. Christmas morning creeping closer. Caleb watched the woman by his fire and felt the strange pull of possibility. He had meant only to give her a blanket, maybe a meal, but the house seemed to lean toward her, as if it remembered what it was like to hold another soul. Anna lifted her eyes and met his, something unspoken passing between them. The storm would come again. He knew that, but for this moment, on this Christmas Eve, the cold had been held at the door, and a porch had become the first step toward. A home morning settled in slow and grey. Christmas Day, bringing no cheer to the sky, only a heavier snow that softened the land and hid its dangers. Caleb woke early as always, the habit carved deep. For a moment he forgot she was there. Then he heard movement by the fire. Anna sat wrapped in the wool blanket, staring into the flames like they held answers. She looked different in the light, still worn but warmer, more real, not a shadow under his porch anymore. Caleb set coffee on the stove and spoke her name, gentle. She startled then relaxed, telling him she hadn't slept so warm in longer than she could remember. They ate together in quiet, the kind that didn't press too hard. Outside the wind moaned low, snow whispering against the windows. Anna finally spoke, her voice steady but careful. She said she'd been heading west. No fixed place, just away. Away from a town where promises broke easy and work ran out quicker. Away from a man who'd turned mean when money dried up. She didn't call him husband, didn't call him anything. Caleb didn't ask. Some stories needed space before they could breathe. He only nodded, understanding enough. The West was full of folks running from something Caleb told her about the ranch, how it used to hum with life, hired hands, laughter, his wife humming while she cooked. Then how sickness took her one hard winter and left him with acres of land and too much silence. Anna listened like every word mattered, her eyes soft but sharp. She said she was sorry, and he believed her. The fire burned low as the day wore on, neither of them in a hurry to break the fragile peace. Outside the snow kept falling, thick now, the kind that swallowed trails and made travel foolish. By midday the wind rose, turning snow into knives. Caleb stepped onto the porch and scanned the horizon. Ranch instinct never left him. Weather like this could trap a man easy. When he came back inside, he made a decision that surprised even him. He told Anna she could stay until the storm passed. Days if need be, he said it plain, no debt owed, no expectations. Her breath caught, pride flickering again, but the cold outside settled the matter. She thanked him. This time her voice didn't shake, and something settled into the house. Like a chair finally filled the storm, worsened by evening. Snow piling high against the barn, wind screaming like a living thing. Caleb checked the stock as best he could. Anna insisted on helping, pulling on an old coat he lent her. Moving with quiet determination, he watched her from the corner of his eye, noting how she handled herself, not helpless, just worn down. As they worked, she told him bits more. How she'd done laundry, cooked, worked fields, anything honest to keep moving. How she slept where she could. Barns, sheds, porches like his. Caleb felt anger rise, not at her but at a world that let good people freeze. Night fell hard, darkness pressing close. They were finishing in the barn when a sound cut through the wind. The distant crunch of hooves. Caleb froze, every sense sharpening. Riders didn't come this way in storms, not unless desperate or dangerous. He ushered Anna inside quick, barred the door, stoked the fire, told her to stay quiet. His rifle rested easy in his hands. Outside voices carried faint but clear enough. Men calling a name, her name. Anna went pale, whispering that they'd found her. Fear cracking her calm, Caleb didn't hesitate. He told her to stay behind him, whatever happened. He stepped onto the porch as the riders approached. Two men wrapped in scarves, eyes hard. They asked if he'd seen a woman pass through. Described Anna without kindness. Caleb said no, voice flat as frozen ground. The men pressed, saying she owed money, that she belonged to one of them. Caleb felt heat rise. He told them people didn't belong to anyone, and debts weren't collected with threats. The wind howled like it agreed. The standoff stretched, snow swirling, the men weighing risk. Finally one spat and said they'd be back. Storms didn't last forever. They rode off into the white, leaving tracks that vanished almost as soon as they formed. Caleb stood there long after, cold biting through him. When he came back inside, Anna was shaking, not from cold alone. He wrapped the blanket around her and said she was safe here, for tonight and tomorrow, and as long as she needed. The words surprised him, but they felt right. Outside the storm raged on, but inside, something stronger than fear had taken root. The storm broke before dawn, not gentle, but sudden. Wind, dying like a snuffed candle, leaving a silence so deep it rang. Caleb woke to that quiet, and knew it meant trouble. Snow lay thick and smooth outside, hiding tracks but not intentions. He dressed quick, checked the rifle, then paused by the fire. Anna slept curled tight in the chair, blanket tucked under her chin. For a moment he just watched her breathe. The house felt different now, fuller, as if it remembered how to hold hope. But hope did not mean safety. Not yet. By mid-morning the sky cleared to a hard blue, cold sharp enough to sting lungs. Caleb went out to check the perimeter, found what he expected and wished he hadn't. Tracks at the edge of the property, fresh enough to glisten. The men hadn't ridden far, only waited, patient like wolves. Caleb returned inside and told Anna straight. No softening. She didn't cry or beg, just nodded, eyes steady. She said she was tired of running, tired of being hunted for a debt that wasn't even hers. She'd left that man because his fists came easier than his promises, and because he'd decided she was something to sell. Caleb listened, anger burning low and controlled. He said those men wouldn't take her from his land, not today, maybe not ever. Anna asked why he would risk that, risk his ranch, his life. For someone he'd known a day. Caleb thought of his wife, of winters that stole without asking, of how the porch had felt empty before last night. He said sometimes a man was given one clear chance to do right, and if he turned away, he'd carry that cold forever. They prepared together, not like strangers but like partners. Caleb showed her where to stand, what to do if things went bad. She learned fast. Fear sharpened into resolve. Outside the sun climbed, throwing long shadows across the snow. Near noon the riders came, 3 this time, bold now that the storm had passed. Caleb met them in the yard, rifle resting easy but ready. Anna watched from the window, heart hammering but hands steady. The men spoke ugly words, claimed ownership, waved papers that meant nothing. Caleb answered with law and land, and a voice that did not bend. The first shot cracked the air, a warning into the snow. The men drew fast, but not fast enough. Caleb fired again, clean and precise. One horse screamed and went down. Chaos followed, shouting, snow torn up by hooves and boots. Anna moved when she had to, just like he'd taught her, throwing the pot of hot ash into a rider's face when he rushed the door. The fight ended quick after that. One man wounded, the others fleeing hard. Fear finally louder than greed. Silence settled again, broken only by heavy breathing. Caleb checked Anna first. She was shaken but whole, her eyes bright with something fierce and alive. She laughed once, short and disbelieving, then cried. The release of too much held in too long. Caleb held her awkward at first, then sure. The rifle forgotten. Outside the sun warmed nothing, but it didn't matter. What mattered was that she stood there free, not owned, not chased, just breathing in a place that had chosen her back days past. Quiet ones, the kind that healed slow. Word spread, as it always did, that Caleb Rourke was not a man to cross, and that his ranch was closed to collectors and bullies alike. Anna stayed first because travel was dangerous, then because leaving grew harder to imagine. She worked beside him, learned the rhythms of the land. Laughter returned to the house, tentative at first, then stronger. Christmas decorations stayed up longer than usual, not out of tradition but gratitude. Spring would come. Caleb knew that, with grass and calves and a future he hadn't planned on. One evening as the sun dipped low, he asked Anna if she meant to keep heading west. She looked at the porch, at the firelight spilling through the window, then at him. She said she'd already arrived. The porch that once held a stranger now marked the place where her life had turned. On a cold Christmas Eve, with a blanket, a choice, and a home that was built not from boards alone, but from staying together.